All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Valjean Wright. I'm a reading and writing specialist and the Perkins coordinator for Harcum College. Um, Today, I'd like to introduce you to a method that I developed for um, improving word skills. It's a method that helps students to recognize words that they might already know but can't recognize in print. It also helps with pronunciation and it helps with spelling as well. Um, what I have noticed over the years is that there is a need for a comprehensive system of syllabicating or taking words apart. It's a central word analysis or decoding skills. And though it's taught in early grades with, mostly two-syllable words, there's no really easy, consistent method for longer words. And those are the words that your students have to deal with a lot of the time. Now, this method assumes a third grade reading level. It doesn't have anything to do with letter sounds, and it assumes that students have a basic sight vocabulary of third grade, simple words that they can recognize in print, so that when after they syllabicate, they'll be able to sound out the words. The systems that are used to syllabicate words in the elementary schools, the standard system is just concentrate students on the spaces between the syllables. For example, divide between the letters. But when the same letters. But when the word gets longer, that system tends to break down. It just becomes too complicated. So what I have found in my travels, and I have been traveling this road for about 50 years, as a teacher, an instructor, a tutor, and a researcher, is that a lot of what I see a pattern here when students who are have low literacy levels that are older, like junior high through college, they come up with a word like this. They'll be able, if they learn this in elementary school, to go ahead and divide between the M's. But after that, they just don't have a way to work through the words. So they're guessing. Let me see. Community, commute, communism, com, com, commutation. They don't really know how to work through the word to get a sense of how to syllabicate it. What my system does is to concentrate not on the spaces between the words, between the syllables, but on the heart of the syllable, which is the vowel sound. And if you concentrate on the vowel sound, what that does is it gives the students a stepping stones to find out how many parts are in a word, and from there they can figure out how to take the word apart. I've presented this a lot over the years in different venues, and I remember once after I had presented it at ILC, I was eating my lunch and there was a gentleman at the table who had been in my session, and I think he was a carpentry instructor. And he said to me, students have a lot of trouble with words in my classes, so I say to them, hey, just break it up into parts. And they look at me with these blank stares and they say, well, how? So this is how. So I'm going to use this with my students. Now, I never connected with him again, and I don't know if he used it or what his success was, but I'd like to hear from anybody who does use it to see if it helped with their students. The way I began this was in order to get the system up and running, I analyzed the entire English language and came up with a set of rules that would address every word in the language. And this is a little pamphlet that I put together. And, if you want to, you can buy it on let me see, where do they sell it? Barnes and Noble or whatever. But I don't think you're going to want this. I think what you're going to do is you're going to want the program specific stuff. So in order to facilitate, after I had all the word lists, in order to facilitate this, I came up with a video. And the video breaks down the language into set of rules. And some of them are familiar, like silent E, that everybody's familiar with that. But I created a bunch of other ones so that I could um, accommodate every word in the language. No, you're not going to have to do that because your students aren't going to use all of these rules. You'll see when you in your program specific um, lists. And what I also did was I wanted to see how long it would take to play each one of these. The introduction's a minute. Most of them are a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes max. So it doesn't take long to work through them. Now, I was trying to figure out how to send you guys the syllabication video, but then I realized, hey, it's on YouTube. All you have to do is say syllabicate by vowel sounds, keyword search, vowel gene right, and it'll be right there. So I don't have to send it to you I will if you want me to, but you can also get it on YouTube. Now, when I was presenting this once, I said to everybody who was doing it, see if there are any errors. And they found what they thought were 2 errors. They're not really errors, but I think they're errors in judgment on my part. One of them is, they're both in the same section. So you'll come across these. I just wanted to get that over with. Section 5, one of them is kayak. Now that, people said, oh, you misspelled it. Well, actually, luckily, kayak is a word. It's just not the familiar one. So it works. And the other one is vacuum. I wanted to use familiar words. Merriam-Webster says divide between the U's, but most people don't do that. Now, I addressed that in a later section about how if a word is used enough, it'll change the way it's pronounced. But so you might want to be aware of those. And we couldn't find any other errors, which I was happy about. So because I got a lot of positive responses over the years with this, the folks at Penn State, the folks at Penn State asked me if I would come up with program-specific exercises that use this system. So I've developed, now each one of them takes about 20 hours, but to do, I've developed 32 of them. I was hoping to have them all done by now, but I got kind of sidetracked by COVID-19, which I'm sure a lot of you will understand. So I have developed and completed 32 of those, but I'm still working on the ones over on the right-hand side. If you want those, though, just write to me and I'll get them done for you. And I think this is a great thing to do because it not only teaches students a good system of syllabicating words, but they're also at the same time mastering their program-specific vocabulary. Now, the way I developed this was I asked the folks at Chester County, and then Patty Buconich got in touch with the guys at Lehigh Carbon, and they were great about this. They pulled together all the vocabulary lists and indexes from all of your program texts. And when I decided to do this, I decided not to just do vocabulary because I found when I looked at the definitions that sometimes the definitions were harder to read than the vocabulary. So I've included both. I've included all words of at least 2 syllables. So your students are going to know a lot of them, which will give you them confidence so that when they come across one they don't know, they'll feel more inclined to tackle it. But that's the way that's set up. And if you want those, you can email me, and that's on the handout. Oh, the handout. In a little bit, what we're going to do is I'm going to turn on the syllabication video, and we're going to practice. You'll get a lot more out of it if you've got the handout, because the handout has some activities that you can do as you go along. Now, I wanted to find out just exactly I have these 10 rules, and I wanted to find out how many CTE words were in each rule. So I found out that rules 1, 2, 4, 5, and 8 were the really essential ones, and that on average, 94% of the words in your programs are covered by these. But the other ones, 3, 6, 7, and 9, are simple, easy to remember. And 10, which deals with just plurals and ed words, is a good review. In deciding what to include, I know you've got time limits. Um, we don't want to overwhelm students, especially students who have trouble reading. We don't want to overwhelm them, but it's better. Um, the more, the better, because you want to avoid confusion and distrust in the method. The example that kept coming to my mind when I was saying, okay, there's an exception here, that when you have words that end in E and then or EUS, you divide between those, which is an exception to the rule. And I thought, well, I don't know, are they people that are going to have to need that? And then I got an image in my head of a kid going to the Home Depot and seeing the word linoleum, or going onto the heavy machinery and seeing the word petroleum, and starting to distrust the method because it didn't work there. So as many of these as you can get to, please do. So your time limits will limit what you do, if you want to limit it. You may have the difficulty of the vocabulary. Now in the health professions, that's a real issue. Students who are good readers are still going to have trouble with some of those words. You want to be sensitive to the literacy level of your students. You don't want to overwhelm them. And then when you look at the program specific activities, some of the rules aren't even covered by the words in the program. So you want to look at your program before and figure out what you want to include. So I would suggest this. I wouldn't suggest trying to do it all at once, because students who need this are going to need time to internalize and make these rules automatic. So my suggestion would be, take 10 minutes at the beginning or end of a class session for maybe 2 weeks. Play the video for one session, minute, 2 minutes. Have students work on exercises. And what's really important here is to check the papers to see if students are doing it correctly, because invariably a lot of them will not be. Then practice sounding out the words with them, and give them some homework assignments, because there's long lists of words. They'll know some of them, but they should locate the ones they don't know, syllabicate them, try and sound them out, try to master that. What we're going to do now is I'm going to play the syllabication video. And after each section, I'll stop for a couple minutes. If you've got the handout, you can be syllabicating the words the way you would have the students do it. At the top of each section, now what I did here was I just used common words. I didn't use program specific words. But look at all the words that the students, these are just typical. You'll find them in most of the programs. And these are not program specific words, but you can see they're going to be challenging for some of these students. So rule 1, up at the top, it repeats what the video says. It gives an example. The example I gave there was environment, and there's 4 vowels there. So there's 4 parts, and then students divide it into parts. It doesn't really matter how they divide it, because it's not permanent. They're going to put them back together again. They can count the vowels and then make sure that the number of parts matches the number of vowel sounds. And that's why I want them to go ahead and write that. Like if you write, for environment, you'd write 4, and then you go back and check. You'd be surprised about how many students won't put the right number of vowel sounds in there, or the right number of syllables. And then I say to them, how many beats are here? Environment, environment, and there are 4. And then you can go ahead and work with students to do that. So I'm going to start the video right now. And Where's the, oh, uh-oh, my video disappeared. Oh dear.
So while she's looking for that, I just want to point out that I have posted in the chat the link to the handouts if you didn't download or look at the handouts. And so they're available at that link.
Okay, I found it. Let me figure out how to pull this up. What I'm having trouble with now is finding the share screen. And here we go. Now what I'm going to do here is I'll start it. I'll play the introduction. I'll play number 1. And then what I'll do is I'll just stop for a minute. And if you've got the handout, you can go ahead and syllabicate the words. There's a couple of the words just to get a sense of how to do that. And get a sense of how your students would do it. So I'm going to start this now. I don't know how long this will take. We might get through, it's only 10:20. We might get through the whole thing, probably not. But the moderators, the hosts are going to stop me when they feel it's appropriate for Q&A. So, all right, let's get started. This is a method for syllabicating or dividing words into parts that can help with word recognition, pronunciation, and spelling. The guiding principle of this method is that there is one and only one vowel sound in any syllable or word part. Students learn to count vowel sounds to find out how many parts are in a word. Counting vowel sounds is not the same thing as counting vowels. Depending on the word, a vowel might make one sound or no sound at all. 2 vowels together can make 1 or 2 sounds. 3 vowels together might make 1 or 2 sounds. In this method, students learn to recognize vowel sounds to syllabicate words. The vowels are the building blocks of the language. It is not possible to pronounce any word or word part in the language without a vowel sound. The vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. Any letter of the alphabet that is not a vowel is called a consonant. But when is Y a vowel? Y is not a vowel when it comes at the beginning of a word. For example, in the first word, Y is not a vowel. And in the second, Y is also not a vowel because it begins the word yard. Y is a vowel when it comes in the middle or at the end of a word. This method offers 10 rules for counting vowel sounds. Rule number 1. Single vowels usually make one sound. Students can use the following steps for dividing, pronouncing, and recognizing words. First, underline the vowel sounds. Next, count the number of vowel sounds. This word has 5 vowel sounds, so it will have 5 parts. Next, write the word in parts. Though the method offers some guidelines for dividing some words, the central rule for dividing a word into parts is that each part must have one
and only one vowel sound. Students should divide the word into smaller words or pronounceable word units. During this stage, students might say, "How can I write this word in parts? I don't even know what it is. I can't pronounce it." But the reason for dividing the word into parts is to make it easier to pronounce and recognize. Or students might say, "I think I need a dictionary. I want to do this right." But different dictionaries will divide words in different ways. Within a dictionary, a word might be divided 1, 2, or even 3 ways. But what is always true of any word in any dictionary is that each syllable will have one and only one vowel sound. After dividing the words into parts, students should say the parts and blend them together to sound out the word, making sure that the number of parts or beats in the word matches the number of vowel sounds. They should think of words they know that sound like this. They may already know the word, but were not able to recognize it in print. Rule number 2, E at the end of
Okay, maybe I'll get some feedback here. Do you guys feel like you need me to stop? And those of you who are writing them down, and let you practice a little bit with 2 or 3 of the words? Everybody's on mute. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. And if you want me to stop, put that in the chat. I don't have the chat up, but put that in the chat and let people know, and they'll give me directions of whether or not you want me to stop. So I'm just going to go into rule 2. This one, almost everybody knows, it's silent E, but it becomes more complicated with multi-syllable
words usually makes no sound. When students see an E at the end of a word, they should cross it out. It makes no sound and will not be counted as a vowel sound. Now, this is pretty simple when the E does come at the end of a word, but sometimes silent E words are part of compounds or they have endings after them. Students should look for the smaller words inside the larger words to see if there are any silent E's, and if there are, cross them out. Then count the vowel sounds. This word has 3 single vowels that each make one sound. This word will have 3 parts. Divide the word into parts. Check to make sure that the number of parts matches the number of vowel sounds. Sound out the word. Rule number 3. The combination of a consonant plus LE will make one sound. Now this letter combination comes in lots of different flavors. Many consonants combine with LE in lots of words. And with the consonant plus LE combination, the E makes a sound. When consonant LE appears, underline it and count it as 1. A consonant plus LE word might be part of a compound. It might have an ending after it. Or the consonant plus LE might be part of a suffix or word ending. When consonant plus LE appears, underline it and count it as 1. Then count the other vowel sounds. The first 2 words will each have 3 parts, and the next will have 4. Divide the words into parts. Check to make sure that the number of parts matches the number of vowel sounds. Sound out the words. A consonant plus LE word can have other endings added, like S, D, R, ING, or Y. When other endings are added to a consonant plus LE word, the consonant is usually part of the last syllable. However, when the consonant plus LE combination is CKLE or XLE, the consonant will not be part of the last syllable.
When you're doing this, you want to review it ahead of time. If those if there's exceptions or unusual words are not in your program specific vocabulary, you might reconsider whether or not you want to bother including those. And because again, you want to make sure that it's thorough as possible, but you don't want to overwhelm your students.
Rule number 4. 2 vowels together usually make one sound when A, E, or O comes first. The A combinations are AE, AI, AU, and AY. When 2 vowels are together in a word and the first one is an A, the 2 vowels together will make one sound. Underline them and count them as one. Then count the other vowel sounds in the words. These words also have single vowels that each make one sound. Divide the words into parts. Check to make sure that the number of parts matches the number of vowel sounds. Sound out the words. The E combinations are EA, EE, EI, EU, and EY. When 2 vowels are together in a word and the first one is an E, the 2 vowels together will make one sound. Underline them and count them as one. Then count the other vowel sounds. The first 3 words will each have 2 parts. In the next word, we have an AU combination, and we know that when 2 vowels are together and the first one is an A, the 2 vowels will make one sound. This word will have 3 parts, and the next will have 3 as well. Divide the words into parts. Check to make sure that the number of parts matches the number of vowel sounds. Sound out the words. The O combinations are OA, OE, OI, OO, OU, and OY. When 2 vowels are together in a word and the first one is an O, the 2 vowels together will make one sound. Underline them, count them as one, then count the other vowel sounds. The first 2 words each have 2 vowel sounds, so they will have 2 parts. In the next word, we have a single vowel and a silent E. This word will have 2 parts. And the next one will as well. In the next word, we have an AI combination, and we know that when 2 vowels are together and the first one is an A, the 2 vowels will make one sound. This word will have 2 parts as well. In the next word, we have an EA combination, and we know that when 2 vowels are together and the first one is an E, the 2 vowels will make one sound. Each of these words will have 2 parts. Divide the words into parts. Check to make sure that the number of parts matches the number of vowel sounds. Sound out the words. Next comes everyone's favorite, exceptions. Of these 15 vowel combinations that appear in hundreds of words, 3 have exceptions: EA, EU, and OE. First, EA. We know that when 2 vowels are together in a word and the first one is an E, the 2 vowels together will make one sound. But there are some words where the E and the A make two separate sounds. How can students know when the EA will make one sound and when it will make two? In words where EA makes one sound, the EA comes in the middle or at the beginning of a word, with a consonant or consonant blend before it. But when EA makes two sounds, the EA usually comes at the end of the word to form an ending, like AL, AN, or ATE. Next, EU. And this exception only applies to words that end in EUM or EUS. We know that when two vowels are together in a word, and the first one is an E, the two vowels together will make one sound. But there are some words from the Latin or coined from the Latin for some new product or discovery that end in EUM or EUS. And with these words, the E and the U make two separate sounds. And finally, OE. We know that when two vowels are together in a word and the first one is O, the two vowels together will make one sound. Though used in many scientific words like amoeba, the OE words are very rare in the common vocabulary. And the exceptions are rare as well. Rule number 5. Two vowels together usually make two sounds when I, U, or Y comes first. The I combinations are IA, IE, IO, and IU. When two vowels are together in a word, and the first one is an I, the two vowels will make two separate sounds. Put a slash between them and count them as two. Then count the vowel sounds. The first word has two vowel sounds, so it will have two parts. All of the other words contain single vowels that each make one sound. Count the vowel sounds to see how many parts are in each word. Then divide the words into parts. Check to make sure that the number of parts matches the number of vowel sounds. Sound out the words. The U combinations are UA, UE, UI, UO, and UU. When two vowels are together in a word, and the first one is a U, the two vowels will make two separate sounds. Put a slash between them and count them as two. Then count the other vowel sounds. The first word also has an A and a silent E. This word will have three parts. And the next word will have three as well. The next word has two vowel sounds, so it will have two parts. The fourth word has a single vowel, and then there is an OU combination, and we know that when two vowels are together and the first one is an O, the two vowels will make one sound. This word will have three parts, and the next word will have three as well. Divide the words into parts. Check to make sure that the number of parts matches the number of vowel sounds. Sound out the words. The Y combinations are YA, YE, YO, and YU. When two vowels are together in a word, and the first one is a Y, the two vowels will make two separate sounds. Put a slash between them and count them as two. Then count the other vowel sounds. The first word has two vowel sounds, so it will have two parts. The next will have three. In the third word, we also have an IA combination, and we know that when two vowels are together and the first one is an I, the two vowels will make two separate sounds. This word will have four parts. In the next, we have a single vowel and then an AY combination, and we know that when two vowels are together and the first one is an A, the two vowels will make one sound. Then there is a silent E. This word will have three parts. Divide the words into parts. Check to make sure that the number of parts matches the number of vowel sounds. Sound out the words. Now for exceptions. Of these 13 different vowel combinations that are in hundreds of words, 3 have exceptions, IE and some words with U and Y. First, IE. We know that when two vowels are together in a word and the first one is an I, the two vowels will make two separate sounds. But there are some words where the I and E will stay together and make one sound. How can students know when IE will make one sound and when it will make two? In the words where IE makes one sound, the IE usually comes near the beginning of the word, preceded by a consonant or consonant blend. And these words usually end in silent E, D, or F. But in the words where IE separate and make two sounds, the IE usually comes at the end of a word to form an ending, like ER, EST, or ENT. Now exceptions to the U combinations. We know that when two vowels are together in a word, and the first one is a U, the two vowels will separate and make two separate sounds. But there are a few words where the U blends with the vowel that comes after it to make one sound. Many of these words end in E or T, and when certain endings are added to some of these words, the U combinations will separate to make two sounds. And finally, exceptions to the Y combinations. We know that when two vowels are together in a word and the first one is a Y, the two vowels will make two separate sounds. Though used in many scientific words like cryogenics, the Y combinations are very rare in the common vocabulary, and the exceptions are rare as well. Rule number 6. The vowel set EO usually makes two sounds. We have seen that when two vowels are together in a word and the first one is an E, the two vowels together will make one sound. This is true of all vowel sets that begin with E, except for the EO combination. When EO is in a word, the two vowels together usually make two sounds. Put a slash between them and count them as two. The first word has two vowel sounds, so it will have two parts. The next word has 6 single vowels that each make one sound and a silent E. This word will have 6 parts. The last two words each contain single vowels that each make one sound. These words will have 4 parts. Divide the words into parts. Check to make sure that the number of parts matches the number of vowel sounds. Sound out the words. Though E and O together usually make 2 sounds, there are some word endings containing EO where all of the letters blend together naturally to make one sound. These word parts begin with C, G, or CH. We will see C and G and CH again in other blended word parts because these consonants have soft sounds that blend together naturally with the letters that follow. When students see these word parts, they should underline the whole word part and count it as one. Here are some words that contain these blended word parts. Underline them and count them as one. Then count the other vowel sounds. The first word will have 3 parts. The next will have 3 as well. The next word has a single vowel and a blended word part. This word will have 2 parts. The next word has 2 single vowels and a silent E. This word will have 3 parts. Divide the words into parts. Check to make sure that the number of parts matches the number of vowel sounds. Sound out the words. The EO rule has few exceptions. Rule number 7. QU or GU and a vowel sound make one sound. Many words contain the letter combinations QU and a vowel sound or GU and a vowel sound. The letter G sometimes has a U after it, but the letter Q always has a U after it. Though the U sound in this letter combination is sometimes heard in pronunciation, to divide these words correctly into parts, students should cross out the U and only count the vowel sound that comes after it. In the first word, there is a single vowel A after the QU. In the second word, the QU is followed by an OI. And we know that when 2 vowels are together and the first one is O, the 2 vowels will make one sound. In the next word, the QU is followed by an E, and the next an I. In the last word, the GU is followed by a silent E. Then count the other vowel sounds. In the first word, there is an A, which makes one sound. Then there is an IU combination, and we know that when 2 vowels are together and the first one is I, the 2 vowels will make 2 separate sounds. This word will have 4 parts. The next word has a single vowel, U, that makes one sound, and a silent E. This word will have 2 parts. The third word has 2 single vowels and a silent E. This word will have 3 parts. The next will have 2. The next word has 3 single vowels that each make one sound. And we're not going to count the U or the silent E. This word will have 3 parts. Divide the words into parts. Check to make sure that the number of vowel sounds matches the number of parts. Sound out the words. Now for exceptions. We know that when GU is followed by a vowel or vowel set, we'll cross out the U. Exceptions to this rule are very rare, but in these unusual word roots that end in ITY or OUS, the U will make a sound, and the U will also make a sound in a few other words ending in UE. Rule number 8. TION, SION, and sometimes ION make one sound. There are certain letter groups with ION that blend together naturally to make one sound. These are TION, SION, and depending on the letters that come before it, ION. When students see these letter combinations, they should underline them and count them as one. Here are some words that contain TION and SION. When students see these combinations, they should underline them and count them as one. Then count the other vowel sounds. The first word has 3 single vowels and a silent E. This word will have 4 parts. The second word also has a T-I-O-N and 4 single vowels that each make one sound. This word will have 5 parts. The next 2 words have S-I-O-N and single vowels that each make one sound. Underline the vowels and count them to see how many parts will be in each word. Then divide the words into parts. Check to make sure that the number of parts matches the number of vowel sounds. Sound out the words.
Valjean, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so good. I'm glad the video stopped. We do have a couple, a question. And I was thinking the same thing. So how would you have a teacher format this into a lesson? I mean,
I think they just have to put the video in front of the student.
Well, it's pretty overwhelming. I did put the link to your channel where you have each individual rule like broken out. Is could it be taken as parts over time?
Well, I think they shouldn't try and do it all at once because it is overwhelming, and they should internalize. I mean, even if all they cover is the first 3, that's, 70% of the words in the language, and then 4 and 5 I think are really important. But I would suggest that they just put like a minute's worth, just one of those sections, and then have the students practice and have them practice till they know it, and before you move on. And you don't have to cover all of the exceptions. If you look at a lot of the program specific word list, a lot of the exceptions aren't even on there. I didn't put them on there because there weren't any words that applied. You could, I have taught this as a shorter lesson and just said, okay, single vowels count as 1. And then, if it's 2 vowels together, it starts A, E, O, then you put them together, I, U, Y, put them apart. But I think that, again, as I said before, you don't have to cover all these exceptions. I think that if you just present the first part of it, the students will get it. And the amount that you cover altogether is, again, going to depend on the students. You don't want to overwhelm them. And I would, you can teach it all at once, but I haven't had a lot of success with that. I've had a lot more success if I just do it one part at a time, one day at a time, because otherwise the students get overwhelmed.
Do you find that if you do it that way, and especially if you focus on the words in the CTE program, that helps also to raise interest with the students to?
I think it does. The problem that I see as a teacher is that the students are going to be in the program specific list. I took all of the words in the program and I divided them into the rules. So what's going to be happening there is the students are going to have exposure to words that they really want to know what they mean, and the teachers might not be ready to tell them what they mean. So that would, to me, would seem to be a little bit of a deterrent. But I think if students know that they're going to have to master all the words on that list, and they're also going to recognize a lot of them because they're interested in that. Like for the automotive guys, they'll be happy when they can finally recognize the word accelerator in print. But I really do think it simplifies it. And I think that was the genius of the people at Penn State to make it program specific, so students are motivated to find out what these words are and what they mean. Now, I don't deal with meanings at all. I'm just dealing with the word itself.
The
But
word, the pronunciation and understanding how to say
yeah.
those words.
And I think that, even if you could only cover the first rule, you've made a lot of headway with helping these students to actually get figure out how to take words apart.
Excellent. So um, I know I have a couple folks in the chat who are very excited about this and are looking forward to either using it with their own kids or in their classroom.
Okay, you know what? I'm trying to bring up the meeting control thing. Well, never mind. Just go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So the stuff that is program specific, where do they get that?
They can write to me and ask for it. And I'll forward all of this to Patty. Patty is the person who, Patty Buconich, who had the genius to adopt this method and ask me to do the program specific. So everything's going to get sent through her. And so if you have the handout, my email addresses, you can email me at harcum.edu. It's vright@harcum.edu, and all that's on the handout. Or you can email me at harcum at vright@mc3.edu, which is Montgomery County. That's my my other job.
Okay.
So you can email me at either one and just ask for, you say, I've already had people write to me before this started and said, oh, I'm interested in this. Send me the one for sales and marketing. And I'll forward it to Patty. Patty's already got most of those. And then she'll be the person who distributes them. And I think that's appropriate.
Yeah, I do too. So, and when she's talking about Patty, that would be the communication that you folks all get from the Integrated Learning Conference staff. Patty is one of the heads in that office. So,
yeah, I'd like them to send it through me first, because if I haven't completed it or I want to go over it one more time for errors, I want to do that before I send it to Patty, because Patty doesn't have all of these. 14 of them I just did in the last couple of months. So she doesn't have all of them yet. So if you send it to me first, I'll make sure it's perfect before I send it on to her, and then she'll send it out to you.